Picture two people. The first person drives a luxury car, wears designer clothes, upgrades their phone every year, and posts photos from expensive restaurants. Everyone assumes they're doing well. The second person drives an older car, wears simple clothes, rarely talks about money, and lives in a modest home. Most people would immediately assume the first person is wealthy. But in many cases, the opposite is true. Because one of the strangest truths about money is this: actually becoming wealthy often requires looking less wealthy than you really are. And that sounds completely backwards. After all, if you work hard and earn more money, shouldn't your lifestyle show it? Shouldn't success be visible? For millions of Americans, this way of thinking creates a trap that lasts for decades. Because the biggest financial danger is not earning too little. It's feeling the need to prove that you're earning enough. And once that need takes control, money slowly becomes performance. The car becomes a signal. The clothes become a signal. The house becomes a signal. The vacations become a signal. Everything starts communicating one message. Look, I'm successful. But here's the uncomfortable question. Who are we trying to convince? Other people or ourselves? Because money has never been only about money. Money is emotional. It represents security, freedom, status, recognition, belonging. And often, the desire to appear wealthy comes from something much deeper. Humans are social creatures. For thousands of years, survival depended on status within a group. Being respected increased opportunities. Being admired increased security. Our brains still carry those instincts today. Except now, instead of displaying strength or hunting ability, we display lifestyle. The symbols have changed. The psychology hasn't. Social media has only intensified this process. Every day, millions of people are exposed to carefully selected images of success. Luxury apartments, designer watches, first-class flights, perfect kitchens, new cars. What we forget is that we are comparing our everyday reality to someone else's highlight reel. And comparison has a dangerous side effect. It quietly changes our definition of normal. A car that once seemed impressive suddenly feels average. A house that once felt like a dream suddenly feels small. A salary that once seemed incredible suddenly feels insufficient. This phenomenon is called lifestyle inflation, and it destroys wealth more effectively than most people realize. Imagine someone receives a $20,000 raise. At first, they feel richer. Then they move into a better apartment, upgrade the car, spend more on restaurants, buy more expensive clothes. A few months later, something strange happens. The extra money disappears. They earn significantly more than before, yet they don't feel wealthier. Because income increased, but expenses increased right alongside it. The hidden problem is that humans adapt incredibly quickly. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. We become accustomed to improvements faster than we expect. What once felt luxurious eventually feels normal. Then we need another upgrade, and another, and another. The finish line keeps moving. This is why many high-income earners still feel financially stressed. Some people making six figures live paycheck to paycheck, not because they don't earn enough, but because every increase in income creates pressure to maintain a larger lifestyle. And larger lifestyles come with invisible costs. The expensive house isn't only a mortgage, it's higher taxes, higher insurance, higher maintenance. The luxury car isn't only a monthly payment, it's repairs, insurance, depreciation. The lifestyle itself becomes expensive to sustain. This is where looking poor becomes surprisingly powerful. Because when your lifestyle remains below your income, something incredible starts happening. Margin appears. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And that gap creates freedom. Freedom to invest. Freedom to leave a bad job. Freedom during emergencies. Freedom during recessions. Freedom to sleep peacefully. Real wealth often looks boring. Money sitting inside investment accounts doesn't attract attention. Emergency funds don't impress strangers. Index funds aren't exciting. But these invisible assets quietly change lives. This is why many genuinely wealthy people often look surprisingly ordinary. Researchers have repeatedly found that many millionaires live in average neighborhoods, drive used cars, and avoid excessive displays of wealth. Because they understand something most people don't. Being rich and looking rich are often opposite behaviors. To look rich, you spend money. To become rich, you keep and invest money. The same dollar cannot do both. Every dollar spent on appearances loses the opportunity to build future freedom. Imagine two people. Both earn $100,000 annually. One spends nearly everything trying to maintain an impressive lifestyle. The other saves and invests just 20% of their income. If invested consistently over decades, the difference can become enormous. Millions of dollars. Completely different futures. Yet from the outside, the first person might appear more successful for years. This creates another psychological trap. We judge wealth based on visible signals. Cars, clothes, homes. But actual wealth is largely invisible. You cannot easily see someone's investments. You cannot see their debt. You cannot see their net worth. You cannot see how many years they could survive without working. This means society often mistakes spending for wealth. And because humans naturally imitate others, many people unconsciously copy financially destructive behaviors. Someone buys a luxury SUV. Their friends suddenly want one. A coworker moves into a larger house. Others begin questioning their own homes. Comparison quietly shapes financial decisions. The dangerous part is that nobody sees the sacrifices happening behind the scenes. The credit card debt, the financial anxiety, the stress, the sleepless nights. Because appearances hide consequences. And this leads to one of the biggest misunderstandings about money. Many people think wealth creates freedom, but sometimes the pursuit of appearing wealthy creates dependence. Higher expenses require higher income. Higher income requires more work. More work creates more stress. The lifestyle begins controlling the person. Instead of owning their possessions begin owning them. This is where the philosophy of looking poor becomes important. It doesn't mean pretending to struggle. It doesn't mean avoiding enjoyment. It doesn't mean never buying nice things. It means removing the need to constantly signal success. Because the less energy you spend proving your financial success, the more energy you can spend actually building it. There's a reason many financially independent people become less concerned with appearances over time. Their priorities change. Status becomes less valuable than peace. Luxury becomes less valuable than options. Impressing strangers becomes less valuable than controlling their own time. And time may be the ultimate form of wealth. Think about it. Who is richer? The person driving an expensive car while trapped in a job they hate? Or the person driving an older car with enough investments to choose how they spend their days? The answer becomes obvious. Because wealth is not consumption. Wealth is flexibility. Wealth is having choices. Wealth is having time. Wealth is reducing financial fear. The problem is that society constantly encourages the opposite. Advertising exists to make people feel incomplete. To make ordinary things feel insufficient. To convince us that happiness is only one purchase away. But the feeling never lasts. Because the real desire was never the object itself. It was what the object symbolized. Recognition, respect, belonging, importance. The purchase was emotional, not financial. And once we understand this, our relationship with money begins to change. Because then we can ask better questions. Am I buying this because I truly value it? Or because I want others to see it? Am I improving my life? Or simply improving my image? Those are very different goals. One builds freedom. The other often builds financial pressure. Ironically, some of the most financially secure people in the world no longer feel the need to prove anything. Their confidence comes from invisible assets, from knowing they can survive uncertainty, from knowing they have options, from knowing they own their future. That confidence doesn't need external validation. And perhaps that's the hidden reason looking poor can become such an advantage. It creates space. Space between income and expenses. Space between identity and consumption. Space between self-worth and possessions. And inside that space, wealth quietly grows. So let's return to those two people from the beginning. The one who looked rich and the one who looked ordinary. Years pass. One continues increasing their lifestyle. The other continues increasing their investments. One becomes dependent on maintaining appearances. The other becomes increasingly free. Eventually, something fascinating happens. The person who looked less successful may actually become the one with greater security, more choices, and more control over life. Because the goal was never to look rich. The goal was to become free. And maybe that's the deeper truth about money. People often think wealth is visible, but real wealth is usually invisible. It's hidden in investment accounts, in reduced stress, in freedom of choice, in time, in peace of mind. The problem was never that people wanted nice things. The deeper issue is that many people confuse symbols of wealth with wealth itself. Because money decisions are rarely only about money. They are reflections of identity, fear, status, belonging. And the moment we stop needing our lifestyle to tell others who we are, we gain the ability to build a life that actually serves us. Sometimes, the person who appears poorest in the room is quietly becoming the richest. Not because they lack ambition, but because they understand something many people spend decades learning. Looking rich attracts attention, but becoming wealthy creates freedom. And freedom is far more valuable than appearances.